Hello. I wanted to go a little bit further into future tripping. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So here I am in all my glory. I don't even have my coffee with me because I was coming down to get my computer and to my office where it had been charging and where I do these videos. And suddenly I was like, nope, just sit down and do a future tripping one. You haven't brushed your hair. You got your sweatshirt on that you've been running around doing stuff in the house this morning and meditating, and here we are. So, future tripping. I mentioned this in the Year of Death video about transitions, right? Death being a transition. So, any form of death, right? And whether that's we are fearing the death of democracy or whether it's, an actual person transitioning out of your life in one way or another, whether it's changing careers, whether it's changing, the ending of a relationship, whether like any of those things can be considered a death and a transition. And truthfully, we're always in transition, and it's how well we handle transitions that makes a difference. Often, what happens when we're in transition is that we start future tripping, right? And right now, with all of the stuff blowing up in the world, and I feel like in a lot of people's lives as well, there's a lot of future tripping going on. Future tripping is thinking about things that might happen in the future that, one, you have no control over, and two, may never happen at all, right? But okay, I don't know what that was. I don't know why I just got a whole bunch of balloons, but maybe I was onto something. So one, stuff you can't control. Two, may never happen at all. So it doesn't do us any good to build up a huge amount of anxiety about things that may never happen and about things that we can't control, right? So my first invitation to you is to simply stop future tripping, to start noticing when you future trip. If you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like, what if this happens, and what if this happens, and what if this happens, and I do this all the time. I was realizing I should give you a personal example. So when I was working on my house, and it's a big transition, right? I was renovating the downstairs here to potentially become a healing center, to become offices, maybe to rent it out. I didn't really know. I really felt like it was meant to be a healing center, but that didn't seem to be coming together when the renovations were going on. So here I feel like I've opened a vein, like money is just pouring out, and it seems to be more money all the time. And I don't have a whole lot of money, and I don't have like huge resources of money necessarily, but I kept having guidance that this was what I was meant to do, and I just needed to keep going, right? But what would trip me up, like what trips us up, is fear, right? Fear and anxiety. That's what stops us from moving forward a lot of times. Where does that fear and anxiety come from? It often comes from future tripping. So here I am, money's being spent, things aren't coming together the way I'm expecting them to. And so then I start future tripping. Oh my God, what if I spend all this money and I have all this debt, and then I can't get anybody to come in and rent this place? What if I run out of money? What if I don't have enough money to pay my bills? What if this wasn't meant to be a healing center and I made a huge mistake? What if, what if, right? I mean, you can cycle on into anything. Like, what if I get hurt and I don't have money because I only make as much money as I have clients. So there's nobody paying my bills. I'm on my own that way. So I can do a lot of future tripping about money. And a lot of us future trip about money, like, what if this happens to me? What if this happens? What if Social Security goes away? What if Medicare, all these things, right? What if the stock market tanks and I don't have any? What if? Anytime that you're doing that you're thinking about the future, things you can't control, and things that may never happen anyway, stop. Just put up the stop sign. I learned that from Joe Dispenza. Put up the stop sign. You start future tripping. Stop, stop, stop. You may have to do it 1,000 times in a day. Stop. So that's the first thing. Notice when you're doing it. Notice when you're doing it. Notice how much fear and anxiety it brings up in you, and know that you do not have to do this. This is a choice you are making to think about these things. Now, sometimes we future trip because we want to distract ourselves from whatever it is that we don't want to deal with right now. That's another thing, right? If there's stuff that feels like, for example, in my renovation example, I was really stressed about the renovation. So in some ways, it was easier to think about what might or might not happen in the future than it was to just sit with my own anxiety that I was feeling at that very moment. So that's another thing, right? It can also be a distraction, future tripping, but it's not a good distraction and it's not helpful in the end. So this is what I have for you in this. Stop. Just stop, right? Stop future tripping. Recognize that it may be a distraction, and if it is, pay attention to what it is that you're trying to distract yourself from. Understand that you are future tripping about stuff that you have no control over and that may never happen. So why get anxious about something that may never happen? There's plenty enough for us to sit with anxiety like right here in the moment. Why make more? You don't need to do that. So don't. Pay attention. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. And by the way, things are working out in terms of the renovation and in terms of things happening exactly the way everything started to come together, not in the timing that I anticipated, but it did happen. I just had to have faith and stay calm that the right people would show up at the right time and that I would be okay. And I am. And things are good. And I have a beautifully renovated place, and I have a fabulous tenant, and I didn't need to do that to myself. And you don't need to do it to yourself either, whatever's going on, okay? So that's where I'm leaving you right now. Mwah, love you, thank you, and I'll be back about more stuff.